Tell us more about the Canada Media Fund.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate being able to speak to the people in the Chinese Canadian community about who we are and what we do. The Canada Media Fund is a new organization that's just been around 3 years, and part of our mandate has to do with the old Canadian Television Fund that was wrapped up when the Canada Media Fund was brought into being.
Is CMF a government agency?
No, it's at law, it's a nonprofit corporation.
Where does the money come from?
From two sources. The majority of our money now comes from Canada's cable and direct-to-home satellite companies. So those are the big, there are about 19 that provide money to us, but 98% come from the big five. So that would be Shaw, Rogers, Bell, Cogeco, and Quebecor in the French market. And the balance of the money comes through the federal government, through the Department of Canadian Heritage.
The Ministry of Heritage, what's the relationship with
The relationship is for the portion of money that comes from the government. Well, actually for all the money, we report directly to the Minister of Canadian Heritage through the department. And we do have a contribution agreement that comes to us annually from the Department of Canadian Heritage. And that agreement just describes the policy, purpose, and intent of the expenditure for the money. But that agreement covers both the government's money and the money that comes to us from what we call the BDUs, the broadcast distribution undertakings, the cable and satellite. The government has a very direct involvement in how the money is spent. But we now call our representatives from the Canadian Heritage and the BDUs our funders, and we meet with them quarterly to talk about the program and report out on how the expenditures are going. So I think we've developed quite a close and healthy relationship with all of our funders. And because we saw the world differently as we formed the Canada Media Fund, I thought one of the best mandates that we got was to create a program which we called the Third Languages Program, for lack of a better word. It's not very creative, but at least it describes what it is. And that program, because traditionally we have had the programs that the CMF has had been for English, French, and then we have an Aboriginal languages program. So we thought it was time to develop a program for those producers of content in other languages. So that was launched when we launched the fund 3 years ago. And that's the Diverse Languages program, that's right. And it is a program that will take content applications in any language. So the last couple of years we funded projects that were in Mandarin, Spanish, Portuguese, and Punjabi. So all kinds of diversity in terms of the language of the content.
Canadian multicultural.
More equitably reflects what the Canadian culture is all about, for sure. And how our programs work is it's actually the producer of the content who comes to us with the application. But the requirement that we have, even in terms of the Diverse Languages program, is that producer has to have a broadcaster. So you have to have a connection to the market.
So
and
a Canadian broadcaster.
A Canadian broadcaster. And for us, that's really about just making sure there's market interest and the programming is relevant.
Versioning?
Yes, there's versioning as well. The other program we have is a $2 million program for versioning. And that program will take a piece of content that's in any language and version it to other languages. So for example, if a producer has a piece of English content and they wanted to version it into Mandarin, that program, they would be eligible to do that under that program. Because it again is about taking content that's been made and allowing it to be available to other communities through other languages. In 10-11 and 11-12, we committed $2.5 million in funding to a Diverse Languages program, and it covered projects in those languages we talked about: Mandarin, Spanish, Italian, and Punjabi. And in 10-11, those projects triggered $3 million in budgets, and 11-12, $4.8 million. So it's clearly growing. I mean, the demand on that program is certainly growing for us. There's more projects than we can finance, but that's the case in the traditional television side, in the English and French and Aboriginal market too. So we know historically that the fund has been able to support about 50% of what's out there. So I know people in your community and many of the communities we support get very frustrated with us when not everything can be financed. But that's why we moved to having the broadcast license, as the broadcaster is more like the proxy for the audience. So we allow the broadcaster to make the decision on what they think will resonate with their audiences with the producer. And I have to say, from the fund's perspective, we're delighted to be working with your producing community. We hope the fund will grow. We hope we have stronger, better relationships in the future. And congratulations to all of them who managed to get through the system and actually get finance. We're thrilled about it.
It was not easy.
No,
but some of them did it, and a lot more
will.
come.
Yes, absolutely. It's always hard at the beginning, and sometimes, you know, we too are very happy, you know, anytime if your community has issues or questions around the policy or the guidelines, please at any time don't hesitate or feel worried about contacting us. We're always looking for ways to simplify, because we're a very complicated beast, and to make it easier for the production community. It's just we have so many bosses to answer. Sometimes it's very difficult to be simple and have a good balance. So at any time, if people in your community have ideas or ways that they think we can do this better, please don't hesitate to get a hold of us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.